about his opinion as one of our most prominent storytellers in the modern literature about the narrative style and storytelling techniques in the Quran, as somebody who studied the Islamic history.
Sorry, say it again?
Narrative style and techniques, storytelling techniques in the Quran.
In the Quran?
Yeah, in the Quran.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And by the way, what football team do you support?
Now, can I have another
American
hand?
football or British football?
Can I, which kind of football? You mean proper football, European football, or
Round ball, soccer.
round ball? Right. Can I have another hand so we'll move the mic? Is there a hand? Yeah, there's a hand over there. So if we move the mic up there, Salman.
Yeah. Look, all right. Let me get straight into the difficult stuff. Storytelling techniques in the Quran. No, the football team is Tottenham Hotspur. It's by terrible fate to always finish just outside the important positions. But first of all, the Quran, as you know, is less narrative than the Old and New Testaments. Much less narrative. Only about, I would say, about a third of the Quran tells stories. A lot of the Quran is law-giving, and a lot of the Quran is kind of fulminations against the unbeliever. There's sort of three major sections of writing in the Quran. One is, if you're an unbeliever, you will die and go to hell. The other is, this is how you should live, law. And the third is narrative. Now, the narrative sections, blasphemy coming. The narrative sections are highly derivative from, not just from the Old and New Testaments, but actually from the versions of Bible stories that were told in Arabia at the time by Nestorian Christians. The cult of Nestorian Christianity was more or less only in the Arabian Peninsula. And one of the things that Nestorian Christians did was they ran a lot of the oases. They were like the innkeepers. And of course, the Prophet Muhammad, before he was a prophet, was a very successful merchant, and he was trading, on the caravan routes. And the first places he would have heard Bible stories would have been at the oases in Nestorian versions. And the versions in the Quran are more or less identical to the Nestorian Christian versions. So that, for example, the story of Jesus, in the chapter in the Quran which is called Maryam, Mary, which is where the story of Jesus Christ is in the Quran, Jesus Christ is born in an oasis under a palm tree. And that is exactly the Nestorian variation of the Christian story that was in use at the time. So, of course, if you believe that the Quran is the uncreated word of God, then what I'm saying is blasphemy. If you believe that it's a historical document, that you can see the way in which the experience of the prophet influenced the telling of the tale, then this stuff makes complete sense. So what I'm saying is that that's the narrative aspect of the Quran. It either recapitulates what we know from the Old Testament, or it offers variations, local variations, which pre-existed, which predate the Quran. For me, one of the real sadnesses is that, I think the thing that is really interesting about Islam is that it's the only great religion born inside recorded history. This is the one where we know who the prophet was, where he lived, what his economic situations were, what his family was, who his wife was, what he did for a living. We know a great deal about his character. We know a lot about the social and economic situations of Arabia at the time. And we can see how all of that is relevant to the ideas that are expressed in the Quran. But that historical approach, that approach of looking at the Quran as an event inside history, is prohibited by Islamic orthodoxy. Because if this is the word of God, then presumably God is not affected by the social economic conditions in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century. So all of this stuff is irrelevant. So it means that something which really can be intelligently studied is very often not intelligently studied because of these anathemas. But anyway, that's the short answer.